So this is the last part of session 3 of our mental performance workshop. As you would recall, I did forget to actually record our live workshop. So I'm just redoing the content so that you have everything available. And in today's section, we're going to talk about identifying with your winning self. And then I'm going to go into some mistakes that people make when it comes to goal planning. I'm not going to go into the entire process of goal planning. Most of you have heard it before. You can go and Google it. If there's more information that you do want to know, keep an eye out on my website, explosiveminds.co.za. But yeah, for now, I'm only going to venture into the aspect of mistakes that people make, which might not even be obvious to most people. So let's start with your winning self. We often tend to focus more on our own issues than we focus on what we're really good at. So it's inherent to our nature. The first thing we see is something that we did wrong as opposed to something that we did right. We see it also, if you have kids, you would know that. We tend to see the first thing that they've done wrong as opposed to seeing the thing that they've done right. And that can definitely hinder our own performance. It can also hinder the other individual's performance if you are reactive towards their mistakes. Now, in order to tap into what we would call your winning self, you literally have to become a new person. We talk about becoming a new identity. It takes us all the way back to the first session where I spoke about that whole circle where you have thoughts, it influences emotions or creates certain emotions in your body. That then create certain behavior or actions as a result of certain emotions. You will have specific behavior and actions, and that, if you do that long enough, that becomes who you are. And if you want to change that, the most effective way is to change it on the thought level, right? Before that impacts what type of emotion it's going to stir up. Because if you can change it there, you can literally change, you can imagine, you change literally who you are. Now, identity problems develop when we identify ourselves too intimately with one of many types of labels that there are out there. And we call it a pseudo-identity. You might have heard about the word. But identification is really the process by which we grow intimately and associating ourselves with some aspects of ourselves, right? And then when that happens is, so you would have heard, let me give you an example. I am short-tempered. That's just who I am. I'm a short-tempered person. I have a short fuse. It's just who I am. I'm a short fuse person. So we tend to start to label us with those labels, and that becomes, and we label at actually the label of that's who we are. And two things can happen. You are then controlled by everything with which you identify yourself, or you can actually control everything from which you can disidentify yourself. So you see the two opposites here. And the place where you really want to be is you want to control everything. But in order to do that, you need to disidentify yourself from it. Now, I had an interesting conversation with some people in a networking event around this disidentification. And this disidentification doesn't mean needs to be disassociated from your emotions. All that means is, and I cannot remember if we did this exercise in the first workshop, but it's really about you stepping out of yourself and observing the information or whatever it is that you see from the outside. Because the moment you can step out of your shoes, let's take an angry person. Here's this angry person raging on. If you can step out of your shoes, observe what it is that you see in front of you, and for the most part, you can do that after the fact. Then you come from a place of observation. And it's so much easier then to make the necessary changes or to be aware about what it is that you need to change. So this identification is really about putting a space between that pseudo identity. So let's say, for example, I'm short-fused or a short-tempered person. and who you really are, right? Because if we look at who you really are, we know you're not really a short-tempered person. Why do you want to be a person like that? Now, this comes in when we come back to sports and athletes. This comes in very handy when you don't feel physically on top, in top condition, because you're going to feel physically off. And what happens for most part is that you train according to how you feel in that session. It's difficult to shake off that I'm tired feeling. But now if you can, because remember that's a feeling, that's an emotion. So if you can disassociate yourself from that, it can put you in a better place to actually put in a very effective training session. If you don't do that, you can actually lose confidence in your ability to win. So this is very useful if you step onto, let's say, the track, and you are ready to go and run an 100-meter race or your 1,000-meter race, and you just don't feel it, right? And this is extremely helpful so that you can disassociate from that feeling so that you can put in your best performance. Now, common pseudo identities include being labeled around your children and your spouse. So I'm just thinking of examples. You're the mom that always nurture people or always look after people, or you the boy, if you are a young athlete, you are the boy that always pleases everybody, right? Or being labeled around your country, this South African, this person, that person, your qualifications. That's a big thing that a lot of people label themselves around. I remember I got my MBA many years ago. When it was sort of, I almost want to say a novelty, and when I almost, at that time, having an MBA next to your name meant something. Nowadays, it doesn't really. And for years, I actually looked for another job and thought, but it should be easy. My MBA will get me there. And it didn't. It absolutely did not do anything for me. So a lot of people use their qualifications and get stuck in the fact that they have this degree and that degree and think that that will take them somewhere. And then also your financial status and your career and appearance. The danger here with this part is, especially when athletes need to think about retirement, they've trained for years, 5, 6, 7 years at a very high level, and their identity is engulfed with this, I almost want to say, elite persona that they've had for all these years, for how many years, and now you need to transition into something else and you feel completely lost, because who the heck are you then? So that's sort of where this can cause a real problem also for athletes that are working towards retirement. The other problem that you have currently as an athlete, or that can pop up currently as an athlete, is that is when that identity of you is praised, that's the only time you feel praised. So let's say you are labeled as the athlete that won a gold medal. So yeah, yes, we get that a lot, right? Especially in South Africa. 1995 World Cup, Rugby World Cup. And everybody rides on that wave for how many years? So let's say you won 4 medals at the previous Olympic Games, or even maybe 2 or 3 Olympic Games ago, then people still remember you as that person that won the 4 medals. And now they expect different things from you, right? Now, when they praise you about that, the danger is you will only feel praised when they talk about that. And that's the downside of this. So investing one's identity in others or in other things can be a dangerous practice, because really what you're doing is you surrender possession of yourself to other people, because they determine who you are and what you are. I see on the notes, we actually did this disassociation exercise in the live workshop. Obviously, I'm not going to repeat that exercise here, but feel free, if you want to experience this, pop me an email at info@explosiveminds.co.za, and I'll be happy. It will take 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'll take you through this exercise free of charge, so that you can have the experience, because after that you will be able to actually do it with yourself. Now, our next slide is the 7 deadly sins of goal setting, goal planning. Now, 7 things you really want to avoid when you work on your goals. Number 1, probably the biggest, is not writing the goals down. Right? How many of us have like sporting goals, even sporting goals, right? Fitness goals, exercise, whatever the case might be, in our head. There is a saying that say, out of sight, out of mind. There's a reason for that, because if you cannot see it, you're not going to remember it. And the most efficient way to reinforce something is to repeat it. And again, I'm coming back to that whole first session that we did, is to involve all of your senses to create an entire experience around your goal planning. So it's important, write it down. The best thing you can do is actually write them out every single day. I have to write them in the present tense, right? Because your mind does not know what the future tense or the past tense means. Your mind only does what it thinks you want in this present moment. So your mind doesn't know. When you feel sad, your mind has no idea, or your body has no idea whether you are just like fabricating a thought in your mind, or whether something is now, whether you are now in an experience that makes you feel sad. Your doesn't know that. So secondly, having unclear motive. So your goal should be personal and meaningful. Otherwise, there's really no reason for you to work towards them. So remember also when we spoke in session 2 about the change, that will happen only if the trigger is big enough. Third thing, setting unrealistic goal. Now that's possible, right? Writing down a goal doesn't mean it will happen by itself. You still have to take practical steps to achieve the goal. And if your goal is unrealistic, you're going to take the first 3 steps and you're going to feel unmotivated to continue. If you're unsure whether you have an unrealistic goal or whether your goal is realistic, talk to your coach, your most important person that you can talk to, and make sure that they can guide you. Now, here's something extremely important. If you have a coach, and I'll say it outright, if you have a coach that puts you down all the time, that makes you feel like you mean nothing and that you cannot really achieve anything, you probably want to look and to see and find you a different coach. Because if you have to go to a training session every time feeling, oh gosh, you have to, you feel you don't want to go, then you really need to look at maybe changing coaches. Because that's going to have a serious effect in terms of how you internalize things and then subsequently your performance. Next, not having an effective plan. So again, just having a well-defined plan is not enough. You need a well-defined action plan. So what I normally work with people is, yes, we know you want to go and play that tennis game. Let's say you have a date. I'm just picking here out of the air, 21 January. Where do you need to be a month before that? Where do you need to be 2 months before that? And then you break it down. And then you get to a point where you ask yourself, what does my day need to look like every single day in order for me to get there? That's a great way to break things down, because having that big goal that's there at the other end can feel extremely overwhelming. You really want to focus on the process. We spoke about this earlier in the session as well. Focus on the process as opposed to the end goal. And invest in time in planning that journey so that you can take the best route. It amazes me that people will spend so much time planning a vacation, planning all the routes they will take. They might Google the maps, they might Google the area, they have a GPS, and if they don't, they even borrow one. But yet people don't take the time to invest in their own life, because your life is also a journey. Next, not taking appropriate action. You need to take intentional action. Just taking action for the sake of taking action is not enough. You need to have the perfect plan, in the sense that you want to know where you're going. It might not yield the perfect results, but as you go on this route and on this journey, you're going to get feedback along the way. I don't call them failures. Failure doesn't exist. Failure is only feedback. So you're going to get feedback along the way. And then you adjust your journey to make sure that you accommodate the feedback that you got. Some feedback you might want to listen to. Other feedback you don't need to listen to, depending on the type of feedback that you got. Losing focus is probably one of the most biggest reasons why people don't stick to a goal. It will require focus, commitment, and persistence. In our first session, our first workshop, I think, we spoke about your focus and, maybe the second one, your focus and your attention. You can just go and look at the description section of each video. It will tell you exactly what there is. So and I showed you some exercises you can do on making sure you improve your focus and your attention, especially during training as well. It's okay to sometimes lose focus, but you should have enough awareness to recognize it so that you can almost have like a meeting with yourself. Hello, can we get into my calendar? Can I have a talk with you, please, Petroline? Have enough awareness so that you know when to have, like I said, have a meeting with yourself to address that. And then also not following through. Goal setting is a lifetime process. Our priorities and our goals change as we progress our way through life. It is important that we stop along the way, same way you would stop when you go on a long journey. Reflect and consider going through the process again in terms of, okay, what have I learned? What do I want to keep? What I want to take with me going forward? That's extremely important. I cannot stress awareness enough. There's a lot of people out there that I almost want to say think they have it all, but they lack the awareness to address certain things in their life. If you forget everything that I've taught over these 3 workshops, at least understand, if you go back to session 1, understand what's awareness and understand how you can use that to improve your own performance and your own life. And I believe, yeah, that was the last part of our session. Our next workshop is coming up on the 23rd of October. It's named Fight for Your Recovery. And what we will do during that workshop is we will look at values and beliefs and how that steer you in the direction you either want to go, and for some people actually where they don't want to go, but whoop, they wake up one day and end up see where they've been. So how you can use that to your advantage for your performance. And also if you experience a lot of stress and things like that, a lot of time we have internal conflict, people don't know where that comes from, and that will be extremely helpful for you as well. So I'll see you guys then. Bye.